New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, hello, hello. Buenos días, buenos tardes, buenos noches, depende de dónde estás. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are. It is one of those times, I am guessing. I am Robyn Rice Olmsted.
And I am Gil William Olmsted. And we are Rockin the Love.
We're rocking the love. That's right. We're rocking the love. And as most of you know, we are a married couple living in two different parts of the world.
Well, at least the country.
But it's the world when we're apart. It's a world away. I'm not going to bust into song. I want to go, a whole new world. Okay. So anyway, I'm in California, sunny Southern California, and Gil is in?
Sunny New Mexico.
Sunny Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Breezy New Mexico.
But look at you in your tropical shirt, looking all Hawaii, California-esque.
Well, that would be nice. I would be on a plane to Hawaii in a minute.
Oh God, unbelievably enough, I would beat you there. Woo, vacation sounds super good. Hello, good afternoon, Shay. Hello to everyone out there. We'd love it if you chat with us and put it in the chat where you're from and and let us know what's on your mind today. Today, our topic is passion as a verb.
Passion as a verb.
I like that title. I just like it.
Okay.
It's one of those that just came through where you go, what the heck does that mean? And then you just figure it out. So we'll see what we came up with later on. Passion as a verb. Because we've been talking about passion, taking a deep dive into passion and purpose and possibility this month. And so that's what we're focusing on. But first, how's your week?
Oh, my week's fantastic. Week's been going good. I didn't do a thing towards moving yesterday.
Good.
That was kind of a good day. But I've been working almost every day doing something. And, I walk around here and I look at the things that I can start working on and taking down and taking apart. So anyway, it's a constant thought. But overall, it's a good week. It was nice here. Beautiful weather. Lots going on and all of it's going well.
That's great.
So there you go. What about your week?
It's been good, but I just want to say about your week, I really feel, Gil and I have been talking a little bit without you all about how, it just feels like things are shifting. When you feel those big shifts in your life and you're like, you kind of feel like you can go, all right, I think I've learned this lesson and check one off and move it aside. And so I want to say, this move, first of all, a lot of things have come up, maybe for both of us, but I see better what comes up for you.
So good.
It's just a gift. No, but one of the things I would say is, Gil is quite frugal with money. Is that? I mean, yes and no. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're very attentive. You're very attentive to not spending more than you have to spend. You're really good at spending. I'm not saying you don't spend. You're
I
very
do
generous
spend.
and you give a lot. But your attention to, like, you don't want to spend more than you have to somewhere. And so I just want to say, I think that this move in some ways has come up against all of your buttons. Like when we found out we had to pay rent for 2 places for the same month, because generally your mode of operation would have been like, oh no, out on the 30th, in by the 1st, and we got to have it done because we're not going to pay the extra month, because how are we going to double up, and blah, 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 blah. You know, all that slippery slope into, and I just want to say, like, it really has propelled you and us. I mean, I generally would have done it that way. It's just that when things like that happen, I usually go, okay. And it really has propelled you into this space of being able to accept. It's really, I mean, like when you said, I took yesterday off. Well, good. You're supposed to, especially since I can't get you to get anyone to help you. So
we're working on it. I'm working on a date.
On a date?
I'm gonna set a day and just invite everyone to come that day.
Oh, you're like a community service project.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a community service project. So good.
Perfect. That's perfect. Well, my week has been good. It's been so I'm in Carlsbad, and like it's kind of weird for me. I think I've mentioned this before, because I'm like so close to LA, which means 2 hours in my world of time and travel. But that's not a big deal to get in the car and go there, for in my mind. So it's so weird to be so close but still not close. You know, like I can't just go hang out with my friends or go have lunch or whatever. So being in a new place, I decided, this is so weird to me. I decided to like explore and go to the library. And so I went to the library, and it's a beautiful library with all these things to do there. They have like editing bays and all kinds of cool stuff. And so they have play readings once a month. I went to a play reading on Monday night. It was, I felt, I don't know what I felt. I was like, okay, here I am, you know, out in the world, exploring my craft and looking at people doing what I do. And, you know, but I don't usually do that alone because I always have somebody to go with. So it was very cool. I went and I saw The Laramie Project, which is a play about the Matthew Shepard and everything that happened back in the day, and what continues to happen in the world. And it was a really great reading, and it was really great to just be like, wow, this is really great, you know, like, I don't know. So I'm expanding and exploring on my own.
That's so good on your own. We both.
It is good. It is good because it's a weird illusion of like being in California, like closer to LA. I mean, it feels more like LA than Oakland did, because that was.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's like I feel like I'm in Southern California, but I'm not really in my Southern California. So, you know, and like we can have our friends come down and we can go up, but it's still not, you know, it's not like around the corner. So, but that was my week. It was great. You saw the culinary suggestion for your party. Pizza.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to advise me on what beer I should purchase to have.
I'll advise you.
Okay. There you go.
In fact, you probably have beer there from me. From me and when Rev Robert was there.
I think there's like 2 bottles in the fridge.
That's probably all you need.
So I'm assuming that our producer would actually show up to help with the move if I provided said pizza and beer. So that's my.
But you know,
from Ohio.
That's the beautiful thing That's the beautiful thing about metaphysics.
He could.
You just tell him the time and he will bilocate and transport. And just his aura in that field will motivate everybody to move faster and to drink more beer and eat pizza.
And to have a good time.
And to have a good
All right.
time. Because that's
Excellent.
the way Michael Mangus is.
Okay. Whew.
Okay. So I apparently have rendered Gil speechless. So
I am speechless.
Thank God. So let's take a
you
break.
should. No, we can't take a break. We have to have some good news.
Oh. All right.
You forget?
Well,
there's good news in the world.
Don't you know how to improvise? Yes, let's take, you say yes and. Yes, let's take a break and move to our good news. So
all right, let's do that.
All right. So what do you got?
What do we got? Okay.
Stop bouncing.
Can't help it. I'm bouncy. I'm very bouncy.
So this is our portion of the show where we talk about what's good going on in the world.
Yes.
So it tells me that we're going to need to do that more and more as the year progresses. So we're holding that space of knowing that there's always more good happening than anything else that appears to be other than that.
I'm going to put on my glasses so I can tell you the particulars. So an 8th grader in Wisconsin got on their usual school bus and, said hello to the bus driver, exchanged a few little jokes, and sat down. And they headed off. And at one point, they noticed, they realized that they missed a turn and they were accelerating. And the kid looked up and could see that the driver was incapacitated. So he got up, he went to the front of the bus, he moved the driver out of the way. He took hold of the controls of the bus and pulled over to the side and stopped. And he called 911 and he told the other kids to call their parents. And he had it all figured out. And so he was recognized for his bravery. And so, it's good. It's good to see 14-year-olds putting their driving skills to good use. That's, but I thought it was, it's a scary thing, for anybody to have stepped into that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have even thought it through far enough to go, okay, look, something's got to be done, and no one else is going to do it unless I do. And that's impressive. That's impressive if you're particularly a young person. That's a great lesson. And one of his comments was that it's really raised his confidence level.
Yeah, and I would be interested to know, if he has a cell phone. No, I'm serious, because he was obviously attentive enough to notice the bus had missed the turn and notice everything that was going on. And, so I'm guessing his head wasn't looking down at his phone.
I don't know, because it said that after he greeted the bus driver and stuff, he put in his headphones and sat down. So.
Well, maybe. Well, either way, good on him. I think that's amazing. And, I think that's amazing, really. Just
the other part of the good news is that the driver, I believe the driver is doing okay, but they did need some serious medical attention.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so great. I love the stories about kids.
Yes. Kids are fun.
Speaking of which, I too have one. Excuse me. About a man who got up in the morning because his fire alarm went off in his building. So he jumped out of bed and got outside and realized it was a false alarm, but he was up and out. So he decided he'd go across the street to his local coffee shop where he goes. And, he looked scruggly. He was in like hiking boots and shorts and, his hair a mess and all of those things. And he went in and ordered his coffee, and then he went outside to wait for his coffee and just take some time by himself. And he said he was having his prayer moment, and he went and was standing in the corner, and a little boy came up to him. Well, not so little. He actually happened to be his size. He was, I think he was 14 years old, and he came up to him. Oh no, he's 9. He came up to him, and he said to him, he thought he was a homeless man, and he offered him $1. He said he had $1, and he offered him $1. And he at first, like as he saw the kid coming at him, I mean, he didn't know what to think, because the kid was a pretty big kid, and he had all these rings on his fingers, and he just wasn't sure where it was going. And the kid held up $1, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And he said, if you're homeless, here's $1. And he said, "I always wanted to help a homeless person, and I finally have the opportunity," because his dad had given him $1 for getting good grades. And so the man took the kid inside. He said, "No, I don't need the $1." He sat him down, and first he asked the kid if he'd like to come to breakfast. Then the kid went and got permission from his dad, sat him down, bought him breakfast, and they had this long talk about all the things the kid wants to do and this and that. And it turns out that this guy was not only not homeless, but he's a millionaire, and he has been in hundreds of like $1 million deals kind of thing. And he offered the kid as a reward that he could come to his store, one of his stores, which is like a sporting goods store, and he had 40 seconds to get anything he wanted, as much as he could get in the store. And so the kid ran around, and he got shirts and all these things, and he got a bike, and like a bow gun and all these kind of things. And he was the man was just so happy to help someone else, because he said what the kid gave him was more valuable than anything, that it really restored his faith in humanity. And he was just happy to give because of the kid's kindness, and the father for having taught the kid like so much wisdom and valuable lessons. And
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and he walked away with like a $2,000 bike. But I just think it's so beautiful to not only the way it happened, but for the kid to then be rewarded like that, and for the man to have really gotten. I mean, it's the same lesson that we teach, right? That there is good happening in the world, and people want to do good.
Not only that it comes from within us. It circulates, and our givingness, whatever it is, promotes givingness and continues the cycle. And his willingness to give up the $1 from his grades was the beauty. And had the man been homeless, I'm guessing it would have had a similar impact on that person. It just wouldn't necessarily in the moment manifested as a gift for the kid, but again, it would have at some point, because it's still that willingness to put out is what shifts what is you're able to receive in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually passion as a verb, in my
passion
opinion.
as a verb. Okay.
Right? So I mean, but really, it's for me, it's in action. It's in action, and I was going to tell you, I read another story about a man that did the similar thing, and another thing that happened but it's true. It's like, it doesn't matter how big or how small the act. It's like there's a chain reaction no matter what. Even if you just make that woman in the grocery store smile, that checker that's hating being there and wishing her shift was over, there's still something happens for her that then affects somebody else. And that's a chain reaction, which is what will happen if you don't come back here after the break, right? So
That's right.
I say, come back here now and it'll affect your whole day. Okay, so we'll be right back here to talk about passion as a verb right after these words from New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome back to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're happy to have you here. We're excited today. We're going to talk about passion as a verb. Okay, where's that going? That sounds interesting. Are you excited about it too?
Yeah, I'm excited. That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, so passion as a verb. Well, I think first let's define passion. What's passion to you?
What's passion? Well, interestingly enough, let me put on my glasses. According to Merriam-Webster, passion applies to an emotion that is deeply stirring or ungovernable, which I found fascinating because then it went on to say that fervor implies a warm and steady emotion, while ardor suggests warm and excited feeling. And I haven't ever heard those subtle differences, but it's interesting that it says fervor indicates a steady emotion, because that isn't necessarily how I would think of it, but that passion is somehow ungovernable. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, it is interesting because when I looked up passion, I too looked up passion, and it was, I mean, there's like kind of a standard definition, that applies to romance and all of that. But I really felt like it had a lot of different definitions in different places. So it is interesting to hear that. I mean, the one I found said any great, strong, powerful emotion, especially romantic love or hate.
Interesting. Passion. So it's all about, so not all about, but it sounds like passion usually is referring to almost like a level of emotion rather than an emotion itself.
Yeah, definitely. By definition, I think that that's true. I mean, it's almost, it feels almost like that's the heightened frenzy
Yeah.
of love or something, or of, something you love.
Or somebody that passionately angry or hateful, I mean, those things as well. It's this, you're so invested in it. You're so invested in it that just, it's like, it takes over somehow in a way. And I kind of think that's, how it's used often in romantic settings too. It takes over. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. And I one of the things when I usually Google my show titles because I just want to see what it comes up. And one of the things that came up somewhere along that line was that passionate was the verb. And so I looked up passionate because everywhere else I couldn't find passion as a verb, but one place it's something like passionate was the verb, and then the definition of passionate, what it was, strong feelings, sometimes romantic and or sexual, fired with intense feeling, ardent, blazing, burning.
Wow.
And it also has the opposite, like with the suffering and sorrowful. So she is sad and passionate at your highness tent, is what the example is.
Okay, well, that doesn't even make sense. So for me,
well, but I mean, I think that, old English type,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did see that it came out of the old Middle English, 1500s, 1400s, which was interesting. But the idea, I think the biggest idea when we think of passion is that it's an intense thing. It's if we have passion, if we are passionate about something, then there's a level of investment in what's going on there, that's different than when we just sort of go, yeah, I'm interested. No, but are you interested? That kind of thing.
Right. But I think passion is one of those words, I think nowadays, that is maybe overused on some level, in that I think that that's like, it's a question that is asked of students, or graduates or things like that. I remember reading an article for another show at some point that said, like, they gave the percentage of how many times people use passionate, and purpose in a college graduation speech, and it was some high amount, like 90% or something. And so I think, like, it almost becomes one of those, like, and I think if you're in a spiritual community too, it becomes like one of those kind of buzz questions of, like, but what are you passionate about? And, like, you feel like, oh, that's a serious question. I mean, and it is a serious question, but it's,
Yeah, I was going to go to that from the other side, and that is, why is it as humans that is so important to us? Because that's the reality. If because at every college graduation, the emphasis is on where you're going, and don't just go and do stuff, go and do what you're called to. It's about passion often relates to our calling, to our innermost desires, to our soul's desires, even.
Right.
You know, and so and we all know, you know, we've all had those periods of time in our lives, or we've known people that were in a period where there wasn't passion, you know. I eat breakfast because I have to, and I go to work because I get a paycheck, and you know, there's none of it is anything that I really want to do or feel, you know, even like on the negative side, it's not even something I need revenge and I'm passionate about creating it, you know. It's like flat affect.
Yeah, and when you said that, it made me think like, and you can be passionate about revenge.
Right. That's what I mean. I mean, even that is like a step up from from not living from your passion, because there's something in you, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, that wants, you know, that has a desire to do something, you know.
Right. There's something that's like, if you're passionate about that, there's something that you're committed to.
Committed to, yes.
Yeah. And so
passion has a lot to do with commitment, would you say? I mean, our commitment often comes out of our passions, if you will. What we find ourselves committed to comes out of our passions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, you know, I mean, this topic arose because this is what I'm committed to. So as a practitioner and in my business, I was offering consultations, you know, 20-minute consultations, half-hour consultations for finding your passion, purpose, and possibility. And so yeah, so I think I mean, I think it has to do with what we say all the time with Rockin the Love, where it's all love. It's all passion. We all want to find what we love, what we can feel connected to, right? And so, yeah, how does one go about finding their passion if they're not sure what it is?
That's a good question. What I was thinking about as you were talking was the idea that we find ourselves in places where we are loving out of that passion. I mean, that passion is the thing that allows us to express love in a certain way, because it drives us. It's important, you know. We are committed to it.
Yeah. And Shay says, if you hadn't eaten or had an appetite for years, you can bet you'd be passionate about eating. I had that experience, and I'm definitely passionate about breakfast.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that, because I think, I mean, for me, if I haven't eaten or had an appetite for years, I might just be over it, you know, on some level. I mean, I get that you hunger for it. And on the other side of that, I think that people can also just shut it off. I mean, and maybe, not going into everybody else's stories, but, you know, is that the place where we go, okay, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve this, and you just shut off from even the possibility of having it. You just recreate that in your mind as the norm, right? You go, well, I'm just not meant to live that life out there. You know what I mean? So I think I absolutely agree with you, Shay, and I think that it can work both ways. I don't think.
Well, I don't know that it can work well both ways, but it happens both ways. But I think that's that thing where you get to the place where you don't have passion, whether it's like, I don't really need to be in relationship with people. I don't really care about my spiritual growth. I don't really want to learn about the world and read articles. I mean, whatever it is,
where you disconnect.
you disconnect because there's nothing that feels as if it feeds one and so I think we talk about finding our passion because there's something within us that requires that flame, that fuel and the ignition of it, which then allows us to find satisfaction in so many different things, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's I really want to develop rockets that go to the moon, then my doing that changes how I deal with my relationships, how I deal with the other things I learn in the world, all that stuff, because there's this part of me that's being so fed and is so excited about life that it shifts things.
Right. And Shay also said, in regards to her other comment, perspective and experience, but I think that plays into exactly what we're saying, because it's the perspective you take, or after that, like you just said. So again, I go back to the question. So if any of that has happened, or even if it hasn't, and you just don't have the wherewithal to know what to choose, how do you go back to that place and find what you're
finding passion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's where we have to go within and listen. That's where we have to be willing to try things. I think sometimes what is it that I'm avoiding all the time? Sometimes that can be a big indicator of where there's some level of passion, because I have some fear around not making it work, or not being able to do it, or not, whatever that is. I think people often set their passions aside because they don't see a path forward there. Like I want to develop rocket ships that go to the moon. Well, how the heck am I going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
I work at Arby's. I mean, that kind of a thing, that we get ourselves in a place where we just think there's not a path forward to that thing, and so therefore we ignore it and we don't do anything. We don't look for how it might show up in our life. It might look different than exactly what I'm thinking, but how can I be engaged in it?
Right. And I think that the passion is really, I mean, us in New Thought and other spiritual organizations or whatever, or practices, we're committed to the thought that there's something greater than us out there. That's the basic commonality, no matter what you call it, right? And because we're committed to that, there is a love, there is a devotion, there is a knowingness, there is whether you have a connection or a desire to connect to that force. And I mean, I think that's the connection point, right? And it doesn't matter if what you call it, or if it's you find that in peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But it's connecting to whatever that force is that plays into our. I mean, because the passion it plays into your motivation and all of those things, your motivation to do everything that you do, which then, it's that chain reaction, which then plays into, your how you feel about your job, or your mental health, or your willingness to connect with others, all of those things, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, anything that's a part of your mundane life, if you will, can take on new meaning when there's some place in your life where you're passionate and you realize that everything in your life is important in order to achieve that or to be a part of that passionate area of your life. And I think the reality is too, when we talk about spiritual direction or philosophies, is when we realize that greater power is fully present within me, it changes what I can do and who I can be.
Perfect. And John says, welcome, John. My fear likes to claim me before I sing solo on stage. Well, that speaks to exactly what you just said. How can your fear claim you? Because you are greater than that, right?
Yes.
And so your job is to know what you just said. Say it again. Sam.
That when we realize that that power that appears to exist outside of us really exists inside of us as well. It's a part of who we are. Then there's a whole different way of working in the world. And how can I fail? And how can I possibly be off track? And how can I possibly do these things if I am walking in that space of understanding?
Yeah. And what is failure?
What is failure? Failure is your next step towards success. Failure is the thing that ensures that at some point you will have success. Because if you're not failing, you cannot possibly get to success because you're not doing anything.
You're not moving.
That's right.
I would translate that also to say failure is your next step to God or to spirit, right?
Right.
Failure is feedback.
The thing that they talked about in Thrive, and I'm sure in many other places, but with the boat and the ship, and you move it a degree and you go across the ocean and you end up on two different continents, kind of thing. If you just shift it. However, if you take that same ship and you shift it by 1 degree, but you don't actually have it move, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Right.
Nothing happens. But and I would say too, failure is feedback. Yes, and whose feedback? Is it our monkey mind? I mean, is it if we can look at it and go as neutral, just as, oh, this just isn't where I wanted it to be, or this just isn't how I, whatever. But I mean, who defines failure? It's another show. I get it. And I mean, because I don't know what kind of feedback it is, because it'll take me down that road of what I believe should be.
Yeah. Well, failure is an assumption that you're going to laugh. Failure is predicated on the assumption that something is good and something is not.
Right.
And, the famous inventors can tell you that they didn't have any failures. They had things that helped them figure out how things worked, and so they could create something else or try a different object or try a different mineral or whatever the heck they're trying to do. And it will lead them down a path to find new things that they didn't think of before, or they didn't know would work that way.
Right. Yeah. So it all depends how you define failure, but I just think it's tricky because because of our human definition, if I go, oops, that was a failure, even if it gives me feedback, it may also give me the feedback of, yeah, so really, keep your day job, you know. So it's like you just, I mean, it depends what you do with it, it depends what
Right.
you do with it.
Well, people often say that to me when I try to sing out loud, unlike John. Um, but even that, is that a failure? I mean, if I sing off key, is that a failure, or is that just how I sing?
Right. Or is it a win that you even tried?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's so tricky, this thing called life. It's so tricky because you can either go down the rabbit hole, or you can bless it and notice it. And, as John well knows, that I like to say, just notice it and go, huh, that's not the way that I would like it to be. That didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Huh. And just review it as a neutral commentator and return to I think in order to find your passions, we return to what brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
What did I feel like doing it? Because if you get off the stage, and even if you've gone off key, or if you've done something, not the way you wanted to, is it a win because you got up there and you did it and you felt amazing, and people come up to you and go, that was great. Oh my God, that reminded me of my wedding and this and that. Did you reach your purpose? Back to purpose. I mean, did you meet that, and, but that feeling inside, I think there's a feeling when you are following your passion.
Yeah, and again, you get to that place of can your passion, can it be judged? I mean, is it a thing? Is it an activity? Is it this, or is it a feeling tone? What's the feeling? Like you said, I went out and I did it and I felt fantastic. So, it becomes, where is that feeling in my life?
Mm-hmm.
More than, can I be the best singer in the world? Well, where else does that feeling show up? How can I be a part of different ways of participating in this? Part of it is, I think sometimes it's both being willing to commit yourself to something that may or may not seem plausible, and not being so tied to the exact visual, the exact outcome that you have pictured in your head, that you miss the opportunities to find your passion. It's a both and.
Yeah, it's a both and just like John just said, singing brings joy, and if I just stay in the moment, it's a lot easier. And I think staying in the moment is a really good direction when you're looking for your passion, because I think also a lot of the time, especially as we grow and age, we tend to stop doing things that we did, or let go of old things, and it becomes like especially if you don't know what your passion is, it becomes essential to just keep trying things and doing new things, and exploring and opening up to those possibilities to see what you feel.
I think it really also comes to being open to what you're called to. I mean, what's coming up within you, and not getting stuck on here's where I am now. What are my passions? No, what are the passions coming up now? Where can I be?
Right.
That's two different things.
Yeah. But I think that's because sometimes the problem with passion is that we approach it like it's a force of nature, and it either is or it isn't, right? I mean, you can't decide, oh, I love traveling, I mean, you either do or you don't, right? So it's it's finding really, what resonates with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But if I'm passionate, if I have a passionate desire for travel and to explore the world and to see different things, but I have a house and a mortgage and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I can't do that. There's no way,
But I didn't say
and
pursue it. I just said finding it.
well, my sense is, why find it if you're not interested, because how does it serve you unless you somehow engage with it?
Oh my gosh. If I had to, well, okay, I'll tell you. If I had to follow all of my passions,
Oh, you'd be nuts.
and you'd be exhausted. And you wouldn't even do anything except watch. But I mean, I think if I love to travel, but I can't, in quotes, because I have a house and a mortgage, then I've made a decision. I'm probably passionate about my house as well and my mortgage and that life. And so,
Right.
but knowing that I love to travel means maybe that's going to come into my life, or maybe I get to pursue it just by my guilty pleasure is watching the Travel Network and just exploring, or maybe I'm going to write a book about it. Or I don't think it always means you have to actively be doing it. It's just when you're aware of it. I think for me, when I'm aware of it, it still helps fill my heart, my soul, my desire.
Yes. And what I was getting at, though, is I think so often what we engage in is following some kind of story in our heads about what we're supposed to do or how it's supposed to be. So I don't have a passion for having a house, but I'm an adult. I need to have a house. That's how it works. I need to have this thing. I need to be engaged. I need to have this certain kind of job because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's the story that I either heard and adopted or somehow told myself, and yes, sometimes it's like, God, this beautiful house and I love it. And I'm so excited to be here and I want to travel. So how do I balance those two? That's great passion to have. Now I've got more passion than I have possibly time and whatever, and I have to figure out how I can pull them together and that kind of a thing. And then now it gets exciting because that's the fun part, is to allow for the passions to express themselves and to take us down roads we didn't expect.
Okay. I don't know. I'm going to have to ponder a little bit of that, but okay.
Well,
John says, surrendering to God every morning and opening to the best use of the gifts of God coming through me prioritizes my passions on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's different for everybody.
Oh yeah.
But and the thing that's important is, what is it that you're passionate about, and embodying that. And I can't believe that our time is up, but it is. And we didn't even check in with everybody about their purpose. And if during the week you've thought about it or walked with our questions or had any realizations about purpose, and now we're throwing passion on top of it with no time to talk about it. Man, what kind of talk show hosts are we? If only we had a producer that kept us in line. Oh, okay. No.
If only there was a producer who could keep us in line.
If only there was a line. Anyway, so it is definitely to a conversation to be continued.
I want to make one comment though before you close up, Robyn. And that is, we said passion is a verb, and a verb is active. And I think that's the thing that we really wanted to talk about is acting on our passions. Allowing our passions to be expressed, not just having secret passions that we, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That we don't acknowledge, and we don't allow ourselves to explore. Passion as a verb means that it's having a passion is about allowing it to expand our life somehow.
Well, you're right. And for me, passion as a verb is about being it, actively being it, and actively really checking in. I mean, even for me, am I, when I'm picking up the dog poop, can I be passionate in that moment? Really though, can I be passionate? Whatever comes up there, can I be passionate about cleaning my yard or having a yard or having a dog, whatever, and really continuing just to walk in that passion.
Yeah. Yep.
So make your passion a verb this week. Right?
Make it a verb.
Make it a verb. Make it a verb. And next week we will have we're actually going to overview passion and purpose. And it is possible we will have guests here, and they will be talking about passion and purpose as well. And in the meantime, let's just give a passionate shout out to all the mothers out there for Mother's Day, and just send big love and be grateful that they're the reason, or at least half of the reason, that we're here. And that's what I got. That's what I got. So
yes. And just for all of those who have stepped in to take on that role for different people at different times, to really be that nurturing, loving, caring, supportive, encouraging, whatever person that one needs in their life.
Yeah. Thank you, Shay. Yep. It's as simple as that. It's loving your life in each and every moment on some level. So explore your passion this week, and we'll see you next week right here on Rockin the Love. Rock the love, everybody.